Lennox Lewis really claimed to be king of the heavyweights? The boxing public is unconvinced. Former champions Riddick Bowe and Michael Moorer have faded, never having faced Lewis. Mike Tyson paid $4 million to avoid him in favor of supposedly easier matchups. Evander Holyfield continues his popular reign, but prices himself out of any bout with Lewis. And through years of title changes, upheaval, and confusion, Lewis has had his own ups and downs, but won't go away. The two-time heavyweight champion steps into the ring against dangerous warriors the others have ducked.
That's it! Tremendous statement by Lennox Lewis. Mercer pounds away. And a great right uppercut by Lewis.
But then Lewis struggles to victory against questionable opponents.
And there Briggs almost knocks the champion down. Too many power punches. Just too much punishment.
And two most unusual decisions further blur his reputation.
This is a bizarre scene. He's crying in his corner. Akinwande just leaning all over Lewis.
It's the end of the fight. We've had another disqualification.
As long as Holyfield dodges Lennox, the question of who is the top heavyweight cannot be answered. So tonight, Lennox Lewis continues his battle for fan acceptance and his mission to force a defining matchup and to be recognized as the best heavyweight in boxing.
Watch tonight, and you decide.
Tonight, we are live from the Mohegan Sun Casino in Uncasville, Connecticut, where HBO Sports presents World Championship Boxing. Tonight, for the heavyweight championship of the world, England's Lennox Lewis defends his version of the title against Croatia's undefeated and unknown Zeljko Mavrovic. Just a couple of hours ago, a proper Native American blessing for the evening to follow.
Sobat ni mundo, mundo we go. Ni-I-O. Thanks to the Creator. The Creator is good. It is so.
And so began here on the giant Mohegan Indian Reservation in eastern Connecticut the build-up to the very first heavyweight championship fight ever to be held in Connecticut, the first in New England since Muhammad Ali knocked out Sonny Liston in their second meeting in Lewiston, Maine, 33 years ago. And hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Lampley. Welcome back to this edition of HBO's World Championship Boxing as we continue to track the largely unrequited quest of one Lennox Lewis to stamp himself as the #1 heavyweight in the world. And of course, with this bout taking place exactly a week following Evander Holyfield's relatively lackluster decision victory over equally unknown Vaughn Bean a week ago in Atlanta, the obvious motive for Lewis tonight is to provide a comparison which will shine favorably on him as he tries to state his case for heavyweight supremacy. Here to work with me, as always, HBO boxing analyst Larry Merchant. And Larry, we've already talked about Mavrovic as a total unknown. So does this stand as another one of those no-win propositions for Lewis? If he knocks the guy out, he wasn't facing anybody. If he struggles, then it's a black mark against him as a fighter.
Evander Holyfield can fight a stinker of a fight against a stinker of an opponent. He's still Evander Holyfield. Lennox Lewis might beat up Evander Holyfield, and it would be said that Evander Holyfield was just too old. And that's just the way it is for Lennox Lewis. He can take solace from the suitcases of money he's making, and by looking at some of the plights of the American heavyweights who couldn't find room on their dance cards to fight him. Riddick Bowe, retired, has serious emotional and legal trouble. Mike Tyson, still in boxing's perdition, still not with a license. And Evander Holyfield, who has his own domestic problems. At the end of the day, Jim, Lennox Lewis might wind up as the only one standing by default.
And even he would concede that if he doesn't get to fight a top guy en route to that distinction, it would be a hollow distinction at best. Indeed, as we turn to George Foreman, yet another player in the ongoing heavyweight circus, two-time heavyweight champion of the world, the obvious question Lennox articulated in that opening soundbite. You watch tonight and decide. The obvious urge to compare himself to what Holyfield did a week ago in Atlanta. Is that a good way to get in trouble against an unknown opponent?
Probably a big mistake. It's like fighting in your hometown. You not only want to win, but you want to look good. This is not theater. This is not the movie. All you want to do is get out there and win. That's what he should be concerned about. Any other things could have caused his downfall.
Well, it's awfully difficult if you're in Lennox Lewis's position, though, to focus only on this fight. Human nature being what it is, you can totally understand the frustration that Lewis experiences as he continues to campaign well into his heavyweight championship tenure for a defining fight against Holyfield.
I would want to fight Holyfield because of the fact that he's the world champion at the moment. I want to take the H out of Holyfield.
When are you going to fight Evander Holyfield? The question shouldn't be that. When is Evander Holyfield going to fight Lennox Lewis?
He's a boxer still in search of a career-defining fight. For 7 years, Lennox Lewis has been unable to grab that brass ring. Now, he's squarely focused on Evander Holyfield in pursuit of a heavyweight unification bout that may never take place.
It's very frustrating, the fact that Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield cannot fight each other. A lot of it is politics, but I think more so it's Evander's excessive demand for money.
Evander simply said that he needed to get paid as much for Lennox Lewis as he got paid for Michael Moorer, because people had gone out on a limb for him with Michael Moorer, and he couldn't really hurt them by agreeing to take less for Lewis.
The most serious negotiations for a Lewis-Holyfield super fight began in December 1997, but quickly broke down due to Holyfield's asking price of $20 million. Holyfield's camp believes there were other reasons for the logjam. Tonight, Lennox Lewis must set aside his dreams of unification and focus on the mandatory task at hand, Zeljko Mavrovic. So for at least one more fight night, Lewis can only wonder what lies ahead.
I'd like to see us handle the WBA mandatory as soon as we can. That would probably be early in '99. And then as soon after that as we can put it together, we could see Holyfield Lewis, possibly as early as May, June of '99.
That's nice, but before he said he'd like to fight us in December or January, so he's moved it back a few months. Maybe when June comes, he'll put it back to December or January of next year.
And so the boxing world continues waiting to see if this decade's top two heavyweights will ever get it on.
We bring you back live to the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, where we're getting ready for the live battle between Lennox Lewis and Zeljko Mavrovic, the two fighters coming out into the ring in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, Larry Merchant, it's obviously frustrating to boxing fans that Holyfield and Lewis occupy their time with opponents like Vaughn Bean and Zeljko Mavrovic instead of fighting each other. Yesterday, when you asked Zeljko Mavrovic how he thought he was qualified to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, he said, well, I'm European champion and I've defended that title 6 times. Is that enough?
Jim, he's here for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. First, the most exciting heavyweights in America right now, Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa, are slugging it out elsewhere. Second, because the corrupt sanctioning bodies routinely make unknown suspects mandatory challengers. This makes some promoters rich, and it makes the rest of us fans wretch. What we do know about this challenger is that he comes from a very small country, Croatia, that produces a lot of world-class athletes. Tony Kukoc of the Chicago Bulls, Goran Ivanisevic, the tennis star, a soccer team that finished 3rd in the recent World Cup. He is an athlete. He shows some boxing skills. He's intelligent. He seems very focused, and he also seems unusually confident for someone who's never appeared in this class. What we don't know is whether he is a Triple-A ball player making his major league debut in the World Series. We don't know, Jim, if he's a phantom or a phenom.
No, but we can guess, and we're about to find out very shortly. And George Foreman, one of the disadvantages that Zeljko Mavrovic faces as he comes in against Lewis, at least I see it as a disadvantage. He weighs 214.5 pounds. He's given up nearly 30 pounds in weight. Obviously, his plan is going to be to box and move. Is that the right way to fight Lennox Lewis?
No doubt about it. What you want to do, though, is take advantage of Lewis's weaknesses. Jump on him in the first couple of rounds, try to stagger him, and then move around the ring, make him follow you around, round by round, pick up the pace later on. You may get a decision, but it's not an easy task that Lewis can hit.
And Mavrovic, of course, Larry talked about his athletic talent. In fact, he was chosen ahead of Toni Kukoc and Goran Ivanisevic and all the soccer players as Croatia's outstanding athlete last year. And while he's facing a big challenge tonight, it's nothing compared to what he and his fellow Croatians have already lived through.
When we talk about the wars a boxer has survived, we naturally assume those wars to have taken place inside the ropes of a boxing ring, not in the boxer's backyard. But in 1991, heavy fighting broke out between Croats and Serbs throughout Zeljko Mavrovic's native Croatia. At the age of only 21, Zeljko faced a difficult decision.
I was Mediterranean champion. Then war started, and I must say that I'm very, very sad because of those war. The first moment I wanted to go in a war because I was very young and I didn't understand much things around me. Then I recognized that I can help my country and myself much better with my sports career.
Throughout his nation's struggle for independence, Zeljko's decision not to join the army weighed heavily on his mind, as did the fate of his compatriots who had taken their lives to the battlefields.
He was thinking like he's not doing enough compared with people who got killed or who were injured. You know, when you compare that you are European champion, it is really nothing with someone who lost his leg or arm or even got killed.
I always think about people who was in a war, and I think that those people who was in war, especially who give life for this country, it is something what we cannot compare with my boxing results, because I'm still alive and I'm a big champion and I have good standard of life, and some of those people, they don't have life.
By 1995, Croatia had recaptured most of the territory the Serbs had occupied and destroyed 4 years before. Still, fighting may never completely end in certain parts of the country. And for those Croats who lived among Serbs, there are memories which will never fade.
It is very strange even when it happens, because before we were normal people lived together, they were neighbors, all the different nationalities, and no one told you that your nice neighbor who cooks coffee every morning and invites you can become an enemy and kill people.
Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, escaped major damage and shows few signs of war. 20 minutes southwest of the city, in a small village, Zeljko prepares for his fights, complementing his home-style workouts with a strict diet of macrobiotic foods and different forms of massage and meditation.
I discovered lots of things, lots of special way of trainings and lots of special way of relaxation, which is in very close connection, because after the good training you need good relaxation to be better recovered for next training and faster. In macrobiotic you have organic food, whole food, which giving to you much more energy, much more vitamins, minerals, and way how you cook that food, keep all these supplements inside. With this nutrition that I have, I think that nobody in the world can recover that fast like I can.
Zeljko's only sparring opportunity takes place in a small basement gym with a tall, rail-thin member of Croatia's 1996 Olympic team. But adverse conditions are a matter of fact for athletes in Croatia as the nation struggles to recover from its costly war.
I think that this country will be, in next maybe 10, 15, 20 years, will be on a standard what Germany has in the moment, or some other West country. I'm proud of my people, of my country, and I enjoy to be here.
Whether Zeljko Mavrovic stands any chance in the ring tonight is uncertain. But for him, his country's struggle for independence will always be bigger than any attainable athletic achievement.
Back live at ringside and the tail of the tape between Lennox Lewis and Zeljko Mavrovic. You can see that Mavrovic is 4 years younger, gives up an inch in height, 28.5 pounds in weight as of yesterday afternoon, and 5 inches in reach to the big cat of the heavyweight division, Lennox Lewis. Punch stat numbers, Larry.
Here you see what they are. Both fighters about equally active. Lewis more accurate. Many believe that the fight will be decided by Lewis's jab. Mavrovic has to establish his jab as well.
And rules of the bout between Lewis and Mavrovic by Harold Letterman.
The Lennox Lewis-Zeljko Mavrovic fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the standardized rules for all championship fights, also known as the rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight, and it cannot be saved by the bell at any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
All right, thanks, Harold. And as we get ready to bring Zeljko Mavrovic into the ring, you saw the record of 27 wins and no losses, but against whom, you might ask? So we decided to show you all of these names, which for many of you will be just names. Maybe a couple of them stick out. David Bay, Cumulodum, further down the road, Marion Wilson. These are names that would be known to the best versed of American boxing fans. Mark Wills, you might have even seen him against a couple of other top contenders, but at least 22 of the 27 are, to American boxing fans and probably to most European fans, totally anonymous. This, incidentally, is a temporary structure. It amounts to a large tent, but it is the most spectacular temporary tent you'll ever see, and makes for what feels like a genuine arena for this heavyweight championship fight.
While we're waiting for the man known to some of his friends as Zed, might tell you that he says the last book he read, Jim, was Dostoevsky's The Gambler. He's about a 7 or 8 to 1 underdog. Dostoevsky went broke betting on underdogs like that.
Knockouts over the last 5 opponents. Interestingly, that weight of 214.5 is the least he's weighed for any fight in more than 3 years. His last couple fights he weighed on the order of 223.
You know, he's a kind of an old counterculture character. That hairdo, which his girlfriend started out with something else, wound up with this. He eats biologically or biotically, as you said earlier. He meditates. Very interesting character.
Zeljko Mavrovic with the Mavrobiotic diet. 27 wins, no losses again. 22 KOs. First time in a championship fight, and some around him say that he seems a little uptight as he faces the pressures of this event. In the profile piece, you met the girlfriend, Yelena Balabanich, who for reasons apparent right there has made quite a splash here in Connecticut.
Not only that, but she's an amateur astrologist who is very honest. When I asked her about it just a few minutes ago, she said this is not the best time for him, but he can still win.
Aquarius Sun, Scorpio rising. That would be Zeljko, not Yelena.
We hope it's not Scorpio falling.
To enter the ring, man whose hairstyles now look relatively normal by comparison to Mavrovic. Virgo's son, Lennox Lewis.
The pressure is on Lennox Lewis, but great opportunity out of pressure. Right, George?
Yeah, that's one thing about being an underdog. All the pressure's off.
Larry called him a great athlete. Has Lennox earned, in your view, the title of great fighter, George?
He's in a strange situation. He's heavyweight champ of the world, but he doesn't even seem to know it. He keeps referring to the other guys as the champions. He should stop that. Just recognize who he is for himself.
33 wins, 1 loss. It took him a long time to live down that surprise knockout at the hands of Oliver McCall, later avenged in the strange defeat of an obviously disturbed McCall. 5 of those knockouts in the first round, including the thunderous one against Andrew Galata a year ago. While you're watching the fight, log on to HBO's comprehensive boxing website at www.hbo.com/boxing. You can check in on stats, compare how you scored the fight with other fans across the country. And now let's go up to ring announcer Michael Buffer for the pre-fight introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mohegan Reservation here in the heartland of Connecticut, USA, home of the Mohegan Sun Casino, where tonight, main events, Panics Promotions, and your undisputed, undefeated King of Beers, Budweiser. This Buds for You present 12 rounds of boxing for the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World. Sanctioned by the Mohegan Tribal Gaming Commission, Chairman Roland Harris, and the State of Connecticut Athletic Commission. Commissioner Mark Schifrin, Executive Director John Burns, Timekeeper at the bell Lou Dell, counting for the knockdown seconds Michael Ortega. Your physicians in attendance at ringside, Dr. Michael Schwartz, Dr. Anthony Alessi, and Dr. Joseph Carpentieri, along with Dr. Walter Ilachi. This bout is also sanctioned by the World Boxing Commission. President in attendance tonight, Jose Suleiman. Supervisor for the WBC is its General Secretary, Mario Latraverse. The 3 judges scoring this bout on a 10-point must system will be Francisco Ciminale of Italy, Tommy Kazmarek from the USA, and Bob Logis of Belgium. And when the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action from the United States, Frank Cappuccino. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world.
Good luck.
Let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, in the blue corner, wearing white and weighing 214 1/4 pounds. He comes to the ring with a perfect professional record, consisting of 27 straight victories, 22 of which are by knockout. He has traveled thousands of miles and waited his entire career for this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, from Zagreb, Croatia, here is the former undefeated European heavyweight champion and the WBC #1 ranked heavyweight challenger in the world, Zeljko Mavrovic. And across the ring, in the red corner, wearing white trimmed with red, weighing 243 pounds. He comes to the ring tonight with an outstanding professional record. Since capturing Olympic gold in 1988, he has 23 professional victories, 27 by knockout, with only 1 defeat, and that defeat has been avenged. From London, England, presenting the 2-time heavyweight world champion, the reigning and defending WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Lennox.
Good evening, gentlemen. Both of you were given your instructions in the dressing room. Both of you touch gloves, touch gloves, touch gloves. The buck, I leave it with you.
Lennox Lewis
might be the best heavyweight in the world, but he also might be one punch away from disaster. And it's that perceived vulnerability that makes each of his fights so tantalizing.
Shannon Briggs managed to get Lewis in trouble in his last fight, a fight for which I think Lewis trained to fight about a minute. Ultimately wasn't able to put Briggs away until the 5th, but his punching power will make the difference against most of his opponents. And, of course, Lewis goes into every fight, George, trying to remember to throw his jab and looking to land his big right hand.
Yeah, by nature, he's got this confidence, almost a little bit of conceit that he does not have to start the fight off and land the first punch. That gets him into a lot of trouble. As you can see, his opponent came out, faked him, and made him get on the run, only because he doesn't feel like he should take charge quick.
Lewis dropping a right hand to the body as though he wants to bring Mavrovic's left down, but look at how low Mavrovic holds the left. I mean, if ever an opponent for Lewis has been open to the right hand, it appears this is the guy.
Got a little bleeding in the nose already by Mavrovic.
Hey, listen, when I say right away, Mavrovic is fighting in an unexpected style, forcing the issue.
Yeah, he's taking charge. You know, the old saying is someone has got to land the first punch. He may as well be the heavyweight champ of the world. Why should you wait and counter?
Stop! Break! Break!
Doesn't matter who it is. If he's 200 pounds, throws enough shots at you, he's going to get you. And in the first round, Lewis just doesn't take a good punch. He doesn't know how to fight tall. He's a big, tall man. He should just stand up straight. Make punches, just hit him on the chest.
That's a good point. He doesn't use his height advantage as much as some of his critics think that he should. He flattens himself out by spacing his feet extremely wide apart and then leaning over to the opponent sometimes as well.
Yeah, and so it causes him to be in a lot of awkward positions. But if he just stand tall, take charge, and let that jab fly out, fake every now and then, do some feints. Good right hand by Lewis that time.
Lewis looking just to land here in the first round. He's only thrown one real all-out hard right hand. There he throws to the body again. You don't often see Lennox using the right hand to the body, and there's a combination by Mavrovic as he tries to step up the intensity. Sticks the jab right into Lewis's face.
He's doing everything he ought to do in the first round, because that's where Lewis is really weak. And Lewis should be landing left jabs to the chest now. He shouldn't aim his shots to the head right now. This guy's head's going to be a little elusive because he's smaller.
Zeljko Mavrovic able to land in the first round, as did Shannon Briggs in the last Lewis assignment. Briggs landed more than 60% of the punches he tried in round number 1. Zeljko's accuracy might be as high, though he's not throwing as many punches as Briggs did in that early flurry against Lennox.
Lewis is already starting to lean back as though he's a big counterpuncher now. Throws his jab and step back. That could be dangerous. Here's a guy who's small, who's quick. He can catch him on their way back.
Well, it's interesting. Lennox, from the beginning of his professional career, has been described by Larry Merchant as a natural counterpuncher. He's trained by a guy, Emmanuel Stewart, who specializes in attacking fighters.
Settle down and get into your fight plan now. Work your left jab. Working the left jab at his left eye. He's trying to get a right hand over top. Jabbing up high. You understand? When you break up your right hand, he's trying to keep jabbing it up high and keep your right hand in here. Don't get it out here because you're going to catch him when he's told, because if he runs in that, he's like that. Right through the middle. Down the middle, baby. Right down the middle. Every right hand can clean it up. He did not. He did not. He was up when you come away.
Hustle all the time. Don't stand there with him. Hustle all the way. Okay? Hands up. Hustle. 10 seconds. Get him in there at the first 5 rounds, then you can start taking over. He's blowing now. All right? Don't stand for the big shots early on. Roll. Hustle all the time. Hustle with him. Okay? Look at the ground, Bobby.
Stay snapping with your shots on the point. And bring the shit down the middle. Come back with a hook up.
By CompuBox numbers in round number 1, Lewis was 14 of 43, throwing 28 jabs. Mavrovic 7 of 22. Harold Letterman gave the first round to Lennox Lewis.
Now Lewis is starting to throw the jab or at the chest now. When you're fighting someone who has no fear of you, you're just going to have to take charge. Make him back up for a couple of rounds. charge with his jab a little now.
So you're saying that Mavrovic is fighting as though he has no fear of Lennox?
He has no fear. As a matter of fact, he's going to the body with the proper jab execution. And he steps to his left. Lewis pretty much doesn't know what he's going to do. He goes to the left and then he backs up as though he's got this right hand waiting.
Now, when Mavrovic moves to his left, and in the fights that we saw on tape, George, he seems to move almost exclusively to his left when he moves sideways. He's going toward Lewis's right hand. Bad idea or a good idea?
Lewis has a good right hand, but it takes him a little time to get his confidence up to start throwing that right hand. So it's not like you ought to be afraid in the few rounds, first few rounds. But he is actually stepping with his jab. He pushes off on his right foot and steps in as though he wants that jab to hit.
Over the right eye of the challenger. I don't know how bad it is yet, but I do see some blood.
Now Lewis is starting to use his height advantage a little bit. He jabs, and he doesn't step too far back. Just stay there.
Solid jab and right hand by Lewis a couple of sequences ago. And you can see the little trickle of blood above the right eyelid of Mavrovic that Larry pointed out. He insisted to us in our fighter meeting yesterday that he has never really been cut in the ring.
Stop! Break!
So if in fact that's a cut above the right eye, it would be a first.
And Lewis is giving his opponent a lot of confidence. Unnecessary, he's going to make it rough for him because he backs up. You don't want to back up.
Is Lewis showing too much respect to Mavrovic?
Too much respect, and this it creates a tough fight for you. Make him back up most of the time. Step forward with your jab, bump in with your big extra weight. Make him decide, hey, I'm getting tired. I got to move out of the way.
Looks like just a tiny pinhole cut above Mavrovic's right eye, but it is above the eyelid. So if it widens and blood flows, it could conceivably affect Mavrovic's vision. On the jab side for Lewis.
Lewis goes wisely back to the body with his jab.
On rare occasions, Lewis will flanch the left hook. That was such an important weapon for him in his win over Tommy Morrison a few years back.
Step back, step back.
Stewart would probably like to see more of the left hook from Lewis, but basically, let's face it, Lennox is a jab and right hand fighter. Jelena Balabanic with plenty to applaud as her man makes it safely through the first couple of rounds and seems to be establishing himself in there. Join us next Saturday night for the rebroadcast of last week's welterweight championship fight between Oscar De La Hoya and Julio Cesar Chavez. Action-packed with an ending that surprised most at ringside. Also featured in this World Championship boxing telecast, a live junior lightweight championship bout between junior lightweight title holder Genaro Hernandez and 1996 Olympic bronze medalist Floyd Mayweather, unbeaten in the early stages of his pro career. That all begins at 10:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 Pacific time.
Go your pace. You know you can do 12, 13 rounds like that. Okay? Hustle him all the time.
That's nothing to worry about. Get on with your job. You're doing great.
Let's go, seconds. Let's go.
On that point. Don't lock that in. Stay on the floor right there.
Mavrovic has shown that he can fight a little. He's going to have to fight a lot to change this fight around.
Well, he's not busy enough to be winning rounds. He threw only 21 total punches by CompuBox numbers in round 2, and Lewis threw 32 jabs among his 41 punches.
Now Lewis starts to take charge a little bit. He's not stepping backwards, rubbing his back on the rope like a small man. He's looking like a big man now. And I think it's the best thing that could happen to Mavrovic. Am I saying that correct? He goes back to the corner. He's facing some adversity. Now he knows, hey, look, I better pull it out. They're not going to give me anything.
You're doing a heck of a job on the Mavrovic, George. So there's the jab of Lewis snapping.
Whoa, a good right hand by the Mavrovic.
Yep, Mavrovic came over the top with that right hand. Just the way Vaughn Bean launched right hands over the top last week against Evander Holyfield.